What does a facially sufficient charge for possession of synthetic cannabis have to include? To find out, you have to read People v. Hill. It's 8 pages. Don't have time for that? I've got you covered. This is TLDR, Too Long Didn't Read, New York Court of Appeals cases in 5 minutes or less. This is the episode on People v. Hill, which can be found at 2022 New York Slip Opinion 03930, published by the Court of Appeals on June 16, 2022. It's a criminal case. The issue here is what factual pleadings do the people have to include in a complaint that charges criminal possession of a controlled substance with respect to a synthetic cannabinoid, so synthetic marijuana. To understand this case, the law you have to understand is that it's criminal in New York State to possess a controlled substance. That's Penal Law Section 220.03. But to define what a controlled substance is found at 220.00 sub 5. And that basically refers the reader to Public Health Law 3306, where there's 5 lists of chemicals and different kinds of drugs like heroin, cocaine, and certain listed, there's only 10 of them, 10 listed synthetic cannabinoids, synthetic marijuanas. And it's listed in terms of 2 ways. It's listed in terms of the chemical name, and it's very long, complex chemical names, such as N1-amino 3-methyl 1-oxobutane 2-YL, things like that, and trade names. And if it's and the way that the statute's written, it's not like all what's criminalized is those specific chemicals and those specific products with those trade names, not all synthetic cannabinoids. The other thing you have to understand is that criminal cases generally end either with a plea or an acquittal or a verdict of guilty. And guilty pleas are generally the end of a case, but some things will even survive a guilty plea. Even though a person pleads guilty, what survives a guilty plea and can still be appealed even after a person pleads guilty are jurisdictional defects, including facial sufficiency of an accusatory instrument. So if an accusatory instrument, the charging document, is facially insufficient, that's jurisdictional and can be appealed even after the person pleads guilty. So the question about facial insufficiency is, does it fail to give sufficient notice of a charged crime to satisfy due process and double jeopardy? And that question can be answered by this question. Do the factual allegations provide reasonable cause to believe that the defendant committed the offense charged? If so, it's not facially insufficient. If not, then it's facially insufficient and jurisdictionally defective. So let's go to the case. Let's go to the facts in this particular case. Here, in 2018, the defendant was charged with criminal possession of a controlled substance in the 7th degree under 220.03. The officer alleged he saw the defendant holding a Ziploc bag containing shredded, dried, plant-like material with a chemical odor. The officer said, that based on his training and experience, he identified it as a synthetic cannabinoid, synthetic marijuana, parentheses K2. Remember, that is not on the list of scheduled drugs. There's no reference made in the complaint to Public Health Law 3306 or any of the 10 specifically prohibited synthetic cannabinoid chemical compounds or trade names. The defendant pleads guilty to arraignments. He appeals, even though he pled guilty. The appellate term that gets the appeal says the conviction's okay. It goes to the Court of Appeals, and they say jurisdictional defect. They say it's not sufficiently pled because there's nothing about the factual allegations in that complaint that give reasonable cause to believe that what the substance was he possessed was actually illegal. If it's not found in that Public Health Law 3306, those schedules of drugs, then it's not illegal. He possessed something, but it might not be an illegal synthetic cannabinoid. It could be a legally possessing a synthetic cannabinoid situation. And that's People versus Hill. 5 minutes or less. Have a good day. If you like what you just saw and want to see more just like it, please hit like or subscribe to let me know.